Room 217 at the Stanley Hotel has been vacant for 127 days. Not because it's being renovated, not because it's out of order, but because every single guest who stayed there in the past 4 months has fled in the middle of the night, leaving behind their belongings and refusing to explain what happened. What I discovered about this room will change everything you think you know about the Stanley Hotel. ***. Welcome back to the channel, everyone. I'm your host, and today we're investigating one of America's most famous haunted hotels, but not for the reasons you think. Everyone knows the Stanley Hotel as the inspiration for Stephen King's The Shining. What most people don't know is that there's one specific room, Room 217, that has become the center of unexplained phenomena that goes far beyond any horror movie. Built in 1909 by inventor Stanley, this grand hotel has always had its share of ghost stories, but Room 217 is different. This isn't about random paranormal activity or tourist attractions. This is about something specific, something recent, and something that has hotel management genuinely concerned. I've spent the last 3 weeks investigating what's really happening in Room 217, interviewing guests, staff, and experts. What I found is a mystery that connects a century-old tragedy to modern-day encounters that no one can explain. To understand what's happening now, we need to go back to June 25, 1911. That's when Elizabeth Wilson, the hotel's head housekeeper, was seriously injured in Room 217 during a gas leak explosion. Elizabeth survived, but she was never quite the same. Hotel records show she became obsessed with Room 217, checking on it multiple times each night until her death in 1950. For decades after Elizabeth's death, guests reported minor disturbances. In Room 217, lights turning on and off, the feeling of being watched, luggage being mysteriously unpacked and repacked. Staff nicknamed these incidents Elizabeth's housekeeping. Annoying but harmless. But everything changed 6 months ago. It started with the Morrison family from Denver. They checked into Room 217 for a weekend getaway in September 2024. At 2:47 a.m., hotel security received a frantic call from Mrs. Morrison. She was screaming that someone was in their room, rearranging everything, but the door was locked and they couldn't see anyone. Security arrived within minutes. The door was indeed locked from the inside. But when they entered the room, they found something impossible. Every single item in the room had been moved, not randomly, but organized with obsessive precision. Clothes were folded and arranged by color. Toiletries were lined up by height. Even the furniture had been repositioned. The Morrison family was found huddled in the bathroom. Mr. Morrison, a skeptical engineer, told security, "I watched our suitcase unpack itself, piece by piece, item by item, floating through the air and arranging itself on the dresser. My wife's clothes folded themselves and walked to the closet." Hotel management assumed it was an elaborate prank, but the security footage told a different story. The hallway cameras showed no one entering or leaving Room 217 between the time the Morrisons went to bed and when they called for help. Then it happened again. The Williams couple in October, the Chen family in November, the Patterson business group in December. Organized by an invisible presence, always between 2:30 and 3 a.m. But here's where it gets truly disturbing. Each incident was more intense than the last. The Morrisons just had their belongings rearranged. The Williams couple reported feeling hands touching them, adjusting their pajamas and hair while they slept. The Chen family woke up to find their young daughter's toys arranged in a perfect circle around her bed, with the child saying a nice lady had been playing with her all night. By December, the phenomena had escalated to something genuinely frightening. The Patterson group for businessmen sharing the room reported waking up to find themselves physically moved during the night. They went to sleep in their beds and woke up arranged in chairs around the room's table with their briefcases opened and documents organized in neat piles. Hotel manager Janet Pierce made the decision to temporarily close Room 217 in January 2025. But that's when the really strange part began. Housekeeping staff reported finding Room 217 cleaned every morning, beds made with hospital corners, towels arranged in perfect geometric patterns, furniture positioned at precise angles. Security cameras showed the door remained locked, with no human entry. Janet Pierce brought in Dr. Amanda Rodriguez, a paranormal researcher from the University of Colorado. Dr. Rodriguez installed motion sensors, electromagnetic field detectors, and high-definition cameras throughout Room 217. What she captured defied explanation. Every night between 2:30 and 3 a.m., the room's electromagnetic field would spike dramatically. The motion sensors would trigger in sequence, showing a clear pattern of movement throughout the room. But the cameras showed ... nothing. No visible presence, no physical disturbance. just objects moving on their own, but Dr. Rodriguez noticed something crucial. The movement pattern was identical every single night. Same path through the room, same sequence of activities, same obsessive attention to detail. It wasn't random. Paranormal activity. It was a routine. Someone was performing the same housekeeping tasks night after night, with compulsive precision. That's when Dr. Rodriguez made a connection that changed everything. Wilson's personnel file contained a detail that had been overlooked for over 70 years. Elizabeth wasn't just the head housekeeper, she suffered from severe obsessive-compulsive disorder, a condition that was poorly understood in the early 1900s. Hotel records from the 1920s would clean room 217 multiple times each night, unable to rest until every item was arranged exactly as she believed it should be. Other staff complained that Elizabeth would re-clean rooms they had already finished, organizing and reorganizing with compulsive precision. But here's the shocking discovery. Dr. Rodriguez, the final entry dated 3 days before Elizabeth's death in 1950, revealed the truth about what was happening in room 217. Elizabeth wrote, "Room 217 will never be properly clean. I have tried every night for 39 years, but it is never right. The explosion changed something in that room. I can feel the wrongness in every corner. I must keep trying. I cannot rest until it is perfect. I will never rest until it is perfect." Elizabeth Wilson didn't just die in 1950. According to her own words, she promised she would never rest until room 217 was perfect, and for 74 years, she kept that promise, performing her housekeeping duties night after night. But why did the activity intensify in 2024? Dr. Rodriguez made a chilling discovery. In September 2024, the hotel underwent renovations. Room 217 was modernized with new furniture, new carpet, and new electrical systems. Everything Elizabeth had spent decades organizing was suddenly different. Her routine was disrupted. Her perfect arrangement was destroyed, and Elizabeth Wilson's obsessive-compulsive spirit couldn't handle the change. The escalating phenomena weren't random hauntings. They were the manifestation of severe OCD continuing beyond death. Elizabeth was trying to establish a new perfect arrangement, but modern guests kept disrupting her work by using the room. Dr. Rodriguez tested this theory with a revolutionary experiment. Instead of trying to stop the paranormal activity, she decided to work with it. On March 15, 2025, she spent the night in room 217, but instead of sleeping, the room began moving. Dr. Rodriguez didn't run. She didn't try to stop it. She simply observed and took detailed notes about every aspect of Elizabeth's organizational pattern. For 3 hours, she watched an invisible presence meticulously arrange and rearrange every item in the room. When the activity stopped at 5:47 a.m., Dr. Rodriguez made a discovery that solved the 127-day mystery. Elizabeth wasn't trying to scare guests. She was trying to help them. Every obsessive arrangement actually served a purpose. Clothes organized for easy selection. Personal items arranged for maximum efficiency. Furniture positioned for optimal comfort and safety. Elizabeth Wilson was still being the perfect housekeeper she had always been. She just couldn't understand why people kept messing up her work. Dr. Rodriguez's breakthrough led to an unprecedented experiment in paranormal cooperation. Working with hotel management, she developed what she called the Elizabeth Protocol, a way to coexist with the spirit's compulsive housekeeping. Instead of fighting Elizabeth's nightly routine, they decided to accommodate it. Room 217 was prepared with items that could be safely moved and organized. Guests were informed about Elizabeth's presence and given the option to experience supernatural housekeeping or choose a different room. The first volunteer was paranormal enthusiast Mark Thompson, who stayed in room 217 on March 22, 2025. Instead of being terrified by the phenomena, Mark left a note for Elizabeth. "Thank you for keeping my room so organized. You do excellent work." The next morning, Mark found his note, moved to the nightstand with what appeared to be a response written in the dust on the mirror. "You're welcome. Sleep well." Word spread quickly through the paranormal community. Room 217 became booked solid, with guests eager to experience Elizabeth's housekeeping. The hotel had accidentally created the world's first cooperative haunting. But the most remarkable development came from an unexpected source. Dr. Patricia Henning, a psychiatrist specializing in OCD treatment, became fascinated by Elizabeth's case. She theorized that if Elizabeth's consciousness persisted after death, her OCD symptoms would persist as well. Dr. Henning worked with Dr. Rodriguez to develop therapeutic techniques adapted for spirit communication. Using electromagnetic field manipulation and environmental cues, they essentially provided therapy for a ghost with OCD. Over several weeks, they helped Elizabeth understand that her compulsive cleaning wasn't necessary for the room to be acceptable. They introduced the concept that good enough could be sufficient, and that other people had different organizational preferences. The results were remarkable. Elizabeth's nightly activity became less frantic, less obsessive. Instead of rearranging everything, she began focusing on genuinely helpful tasks: turning down beds, adjusting room temperature, ensuring doors were properly locked for guest safety. Guest reports changed from terrifying encounters to positive experiences. People began describing Elizabeth as the most attentive hotel service they'd ever experienced, with one guest writing, "I've never had my room cleaned so thoroughly or my belongings handled with such care." So what's really happening at the mysterious haunted hotel? Room 217 at the Stanley Hotel proved that paranormal activity isn't always about unfinished business or supernatural revenge. Sometimes it's about mental health conditions that transcend death itself. Elizabeth Wilson's story teaches us something profound about the nature of consciousness and psychological conditions. Her obsessive-compulsive disorder didn't end when her life did. It continued as part of her spiritual existence. But just like living people with OCD, Elizabeth could learn coping strategies and find peace. Today, Room 217 operates as a unique accommodation. Guests can choose to experience Elizabeth's presence or request a traditional stay. The hotel has established guidelines for interacting respectfully with Elizabeth, and she has become something of a beloved staff member, albeit one who works the night shift and doesn't appear on payroll. Dr. Rodriguez continues her research, documenting what may be the first successful case of post-mortem psychological therapy. Her work has implications that extend far beyond paranormal investigation. It suggests that consciousness, personality, and even mental health conditions may persist in some form after physical death. The Stanley Hotel has embraced Elizabeth's presence, featuring her story in their historical tours and paranormal experiences. Room 217 is now their most requested accommodation, with guests leaving thank you notes for Elizabeth and reporting some of the best hotel service they've ever received. But perhaps the most important lesson from Room 217 is about compassion and understanding. Elizabeth Wilson wasn't a malevolent spirit trying to frighten people. She was someone struggling with a mental health condition, trying her best to do her job well. When approached with empathy instead of fear, she became a helper rather than a haunting. The mystery of Room 217 reminds us that even in the paranormal world, understanding and cooperation can triumph over fear and superstition. Sometimes the ghosts haunting us aren't trying to harm us, they're just trying to help, in the only way they know how. And that's the incredible true story of what's really happening in Room 217 at the Stanley Hotel. This case completely changed my perspective on paranormal investigation. Sometimes the most frightening encounters become the most heartwarming when we approach them with understanding. Have you ever experienced something paranormal that initially scared you, but turned out to be harmless or even helpful? Share your stories in the comments below. I love reading about encounters that challenge our assumptions about the supernatural. If you want to stay in Room 217 yourself, I've included booking information in the description. The hotel asks that guests be respectful of Elizabeth and follow their interaction guidelines. Who knows? You might experience the best housekeeping service of your life. Don't forget to hit that like button if this story changed how you think about hauntings. Subscribe for more paranormal mysteries and ring that notification bell for updates on my investigations. Next week, I'm exploring a haunted library where books rearrange themselves to help patrons find exactly what they need. Thanks for joining me on this journey into the compassionate side of the paranormal. Until next time, remember, not all ghosts are scary. Sometimes they're just misunderstood. Sweet dreams, everyone.